Good morning. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabbar here with Jared Smith. It is presented by Superbook Sports. Happy Tuesday. Gerard, we just finished up week 14. How you feeling?
Lauren, I'm feeling great. We haven't talked since I think it was Friday.
Yeah, crazy.
Congratulations. The Lions made it for us. That was
Thank you.
I feel good about that
You too.
handicap. I feel like we capped that game about as well as you could cap a football game in this crazy day and age of the NFL. So feeling good about that. Not feeling great about
Yeah.
where we stand with our Jets. And we are not allowed to be friends for the rest of the week, I believe, because we face each other. So we'll have to
I know.
put up your dukes, Lions and
This is gonna
Jets.
be a
It'll be a fun game.
crazy matchup. It's a good
Yeah.
Lions offense right now that's rolling against a good
Yeah.
Jets defense. Who knows who's going to be starting
Oh,
under
yeah.
center for them? Apparently, Mike White got rushed to the hospital after that game for
I
worries
think
of
it'll be Mike
internal
White.
bleeding.
I think
You
it'll
think
be
he's going to
Mike White.
start? Okay.
So
We'll
we'll
see.
get into
We'll
it
be breaking,
later in the week,
yeah,
but
we'll be
I think
breaking
it's
all
a
of that
pain
down on
management
Pickswise
thing.
Playbook. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll be
there you
breaking
go.
all that down in
Tease
Pickswise
it away.
Playbook. We have a lot to get into today. First of all, Monday Night Football reactions. We have our stock report, World Cup, bowl games, yes or no, because bowl games start this weekend, which I'm super excited about. So let's get right into it. Let's bet it. Monday Night Football. Reaction to the final game of Week 14. The Cardinals dropped the game to the Patriots. The Pats win, though, was kind of overshadowed by what is maybe a potentially serious injury to Kyler Murray. On the third play from scrimmage, non-contact injury, had to be carted off the field. Apparently, he broke down in
Ugh.
tears as soon as he reached the tunnel, which sucks. Like, that sucks. That's devastating for the Cardinals, who are already having a brutal season. They're 4-9. They're out of playoff contention. But the Patriots did earn a big win. The second half defensive play was super important in that. They snapped a 2-game skid. Now 7-6 on the season, third in the final AFC wildcard playoff spot. It's just a weird game to kind of go over because you feel really bad for Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, but also the Pats really needed that win. What were your thoughts on the final game of Week 14?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with Kyler because
Yeah,
it was tough, right? Like it was so sudden in the beginning of the game. Like I was watching
sucks.
the Madden cast, or the Madden cast, the man. Although that would have been fun to do a
Manning
John
cast,
Madden cast.
yeah,
Yeah, that would have been a fun. I would have watched that too. But the Manning
yeah,
cast is the only way that I watch Monday Night Football these days, and I absolutely felt gutted. It was so fast into the game, and it was like whoa. And it was not like he just fell down. It was very non-contact, and it was obvious that it was going to be a serious injury. So we wish Kyler the best. From there, I think Arizona actually played okay offensively, right? Like Colt McCoy is a professional. He's a veteran. He came
yeah,
in and he didn't light the world on fire. His numbers have really been poor, but at least he was able to run some semblance of an offense. But over, you know, the long haul of the game, you saw New England's defense adjust to a different style of quarterback. And then in the second half, it was a complete it was just total domination. It was like a tidal wave.
yeah,
And that's what we expected from the Patriots defense, even though, they might not be the sexiest unit with a ton of playmakers. Like they don't have a Sauce Gardner and they don't have a Quinnen Williams and, they don't have a TJ Watt type of player that might be a Pro Bowl talent, but they play very well as a collective. And they're a top 5 defense according to the efficiency numbers. So that's where we stand right now. Mac Jones did enough. Mac didn't light the world on fire either last night, but did enough. Went over his passing yards props, went over all of his completions props and all that fun stuff, and played well enough to win. Also, Ramondre Stevenson got hurt last night too, and the Patriots were using
yeah.
rookie running back at times. Kevin Harris, the rookie out of South Carolina, 6th round pick. Good luck, picking him out from a lineup when you're trying to find a first touchdown prop. 11, I think it was like 40-1 or something like that. But that's
Yeah.
where they got production last night. So good win for the Patriots, good team win. But overall, they've got a lot of issues too to work out if they're going to make a playoff run.
Yeah, as we finish up Week 14, things are kind of set into place. The Eagles are the first team to clinch a playoff berth, so good for them. But let's get into our stock report. We're stocking up, stocking down. We're starting with the AFC. Wow, words. We're starting with the AFC, the Bengals. At this point, Jared, to win the AFC North, at plus 120. Would you take that right now? They're 9-4. They control their own destiny at this point. They've won their last 5 games. Looking at the percentage chances of winning the AFC North, they have a 39% chance. The Ravens still have a 61% chance. But with the way that the Bengals are playing and the fact that Lamar and Huntley are banged up, could be a good spot to take the Bengals at plus 120.
Yeah, it's tough for me because I already have this in my back pocket at plus 330
But
and
you have to
plus
pretend like you
210.
don't for our people, for our
I
people.
know. It's hard for me to do that. I don't like pretending in the gambling world. It's either you have it or you don't. I think Baltimore is still alive, guys. I don't think we're not. I don't think we can just throw the Ravens out with the bathwater here,
Yeah.
because what they did on Sunday was impressive, right? Going on the road as an underdog with a backup quarterback and then a third string quarterback at one point. And I don't know how they got it done, but they got it done and they won that game. And down the stretch, I think their schedule is slightly more favorable. The Bengals have to play the Bucks, the Patriots, the Bills, and then the Ravens. And remember, these two teams are dead even right now in the standings, while the Ravens get to face
Yes.
the Browns, the Falcons, the Steelers, and then the Bengals. So you have to hope, if you've got a Bengals ticket in your back pocket like me, that this is the week where it flips. The Bengals go on the road. They beat the Bucks, who are reeling right now. And the Ravens have to go on the road and face a Browns team that's playing their first home game with Deshaun Watson, and that looked marginally better on offense last week than they did against the Texans. I know they didn't score much and they didn't cover, but they looked, compared to what they did against the Texans 2 weeks ago, I think Deshaun Watson looked marginally more comfortable. And I would expect him to get a little bit more comfortable again this week in a home environment. So that's kind of the hope. You have to really key in on this week. If the Bengals lose this week or if the Ravens win, I think it's going to be tough. And I think it'll all come down to that last game. And if that's the case, Cincinnati's the home team, you would expect them to be favored. So, yeah, sure. Plus 120 might not be the worst bet, but the margin for error is very thin there, and it's probably not a bet.
Very slim. They have a 39% chance to win that division. Ravens still at a 61% chance. Let's take you down to the AFC South. The Jaguars right now sitting at 5-8. 2 weeks ago, week 13, they got blown out by my Detroit Lions. But this past week, they answered. They went up against the Tennessee Titans, who have lost now 3 in a row, by the way. And they got a really big win. They're now sitting at 5-8. Would you bet on them at this point to make the playoffs? 3.5 to 1 odds.
No. Sadly, no. The Jaguars are a fascinating team, and I give them a ton of credit for that win the other day. And, overall, I think it's fair to say they've had some moments this year, right? They beat the Ravens, had a nice comeback late, nice win against the Raiders where they were also down. And I think there's a lot to like about what the Jaguars have done this year. And I also think Trevor Lawrence has taken a massive step forward. He hasn't thrown an interception in 5 games. And I know that very specifically because we bet his under. If you were following our futures column from way back in August, you should have an under 14.5 Trevor Lawrence interceptions ticket in your back pocket, which, I mean, unless he throws like 10 of them over the next, I think he's at 6 right now with 4 games left. So unless he throws 2 per game and then 1 game with 3 over the last 4 games, we're going to win that pretty handily, pretty easily. But the AFC playoff picture right now is really tough. The Patriots just played their way in again last night. The Chargers played their way in on Sunday night, beating the Dolphins. Then you've got the Jets. You've got the AFC North loser, Bengals or Ravens. There's just a lot of fodder to have to overcome to make the playoffs in the AFC this year. I don't even think the Jets are going to make the playoffs, and they've got 7 wins. Jaguars at 5 wins. I just don't think it's possible right now, and I think they're still a year away.
Well, a team that's definitely going to make the playoffs as we head to the NFC and possibly win the Super Bowl right now is the 49ers. They have 6 straight wins. Brock Purdy steps in. He's making his first career start against the GOAT that is Tom Brady, who is 22 years plus older than him. And he's the first guy ever who's making his first career start against Tom Brady to get a win. He's faced 7 other starters that are making their first career start, and they've all lost. This Brock Purdy guy, they look pretty, but the 49ers at this point to win the Super Bowl, 9 to 1 odds. I feel like the team feels confident now in this guy under center. He almost looked better than Jimmy G has all season long. Don't you think?
Woo! I don't know if I'm quite ready to go there,
I'm
but
ready.
I will
Ready to go there.
I will say that LJ's ready.
I'm ready.
LJ's ready.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things here. First of all, I actually got a compliment on social media for my Brock Purdy handicap this week, which
Nice.
usually they either say nothing when we win or they just bash us when we give out a loser. But that take actually aged pretty well. That Purdy would come in and be very comfortable and be very eager to please. And you saw it, like I read so many reports after the game that, he waited for every offensive lineman to congratulate them after each touchdown. Like, he seems like he has adopted the team first mentality, which, again, Mr. Irrelevant, final pick of the draft. Please, coach, anything I can do for the team. Thank you for drafting me. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think we're going to see a very different Brock Purdy this week. He, first of all, a little banged up, took some shots. First play of the game, took a shot that turned out to be a 15-yard penalty. Oblique injury, ribs, kind of the same Mike White deal where he took a beating. It's his first NFL start. He never got hit like that before. And now he has a short week going on the road and facing a Seattle team that is desperate. And I think as bad as Seattle has looked defensively at times this year, the Bucs look slow on Sunday. And again, coming off of a short week divisional game, traveling to the West Coast, that didn't surprise me either. I think Seattle's going to have a little more starch to them this week. I think he's going to have a little bit of a tougher time. And that being said, I don't feel confident in this number because I just don't think he can be the guy. And if Jimmy G comes back, maybe I'll think differently about the Niners. But I don't trust him on the road in a playoff game against the Eagles or against the Cowboys.
Isn't Jimmy G out the rest of the season, though?
He might be.
I think he is.
We don't know that for sure. No.
When they say season-ending injury, though, doesn't that mean
he could come back in the playoffs from what I've been gleaning this week? Now, is it going to matter? Is the Niners going to be around that long? No, but the door wasn't completely shut on him from what I heard. Do I expect him to come back this season? I don't know, 50-50. But Kyle Shanahan did get asked about, I mean, that's why they didn't completely cut ties and move on from him. He's still on the active roster, and I don't think he's even on IR because they think he might be able to come back and play in the playoffs from what I read. But I wouldn't make that bet right now. I think the Niners at this point, you play them week to week if you find a good spot, but I think they might lose this week, frankly. I really do.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. They're on a 6-game winning streak right now, so that gets snapped. Good on the team that beats them. Now let's take it to the Panthers because we're looking at the NFC South. The Panthers won the last 2 games. They could possibly have a chance to win the NFC South at this point with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing last week. Right now it's 3.5 to 1. They're only 1 game out of first place. They beat the Seahawks. They're now 5-8. The Bucs dropped their last game to the 49ers. If they could win the division, if they win out, that is wild. Would you take them at 3.5 to 1 to win the NFC South? That is just a putrid division.
This bet actually interests me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Of all the ones we did today. So first of all, we have to give a lot of credit to Steve Wilks. Steve Wilks is a guy that was fired by the Cardinals 3 years ago after 1 season and really wasn't given a fair shake. And it was because they were going to draft Kyler Murray and they were going to sign Cliff Kingsbury to be their head coach. And I'm not saying the injury is karma, but the Kingsbury struggles, and with Steve Wilks getting this opportunity, and Arizona's just taking a nosedive and Carolina's trending up, I think there's a little karma there because I do think Steve Wilks did not get a fair shake in Arizona, and he deserved another head coaching job. And he's getting it with a Carolina team that seems to be peaking at a very intriguing time. They're running the football incredibly well, and they've got a top 5 defense. So, and Sam Darnold is playing better than Baker Mayfield. I don't want to go too far about how well he's playing. He's grading out kind of like an average quarterback right now, but compared to where Baker was, it's pretty good. So this is an intriguing bet because they face the Steelers at home this week, then they face the Lions at home next week, and then they face the Bucs on the road. in the return game, and they've already beaten Tampa this year. If they win their next 3 games, they're going to win the division probably. And that's a scary notion considering who is, where they're at in the standings right now. So yeah, I would put a little sprinkle here on Carolina to win the NFC South. I'm more intrigued with their game this week, betting them against the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to double that, piggyback it with a little sprinkle here on this bet, no issues.
4 weeks left in the NFL regular season. We'll see how things play out. One team has clinched their playoff berth at this point. Let's take it from football to football. As the World Cup semifinal starts today, for more, let's bring in our friend Steve Ceruti. You can follow him on Twitter at Ceruti, podcast manager and basketball soccer writer for The Ringer. Steve, how are we? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you guys as well. Thanks for having me on. I know it's exciting. We got 4 teams left in the World Cup here, and we've got what are 2 kind of underdog stories and 2 big favorites. So it should be an exciting couple of days here.
Yeah, let's start with the first game because it goes on today, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Argentina, the favorites in that one, going up against Croatia. Croatia plus 340 underdogs. For a draw, it's plus 235. Croatia, again, beat Argentina 3-0 in group stage in 2018. Both teams won in a shootout in the quarterfinals. When you look at this game, how do you handicap it? Because Argentina in the FIFA rankings is ranked 3rd and Croatia ranked 12th. So it's not even like they're 2 similar teams at this point.
Yeah, so I picked Argentina to win at the start, and it's weird to sit here now and say like I actually feel less good about them than I did before the tournament started because they're in the semifinal. But there's just something weird about this Argentina team because they obviously lost to Saudi Arabia in their first match, and they could have easily been up like 3-4-0 at halftime, but they there's just something there. They didn't finish it off. They had a couple offside goals, picked up a couple easy wins against some average teams in Mexico and Poland. Then once they get to the knockout stages, they play Australia, who they are significantly better than. They still let Australia hang around in that game. And then you look at the Netherlands game as well, like they're cruise control, 2-0. You're like, all right, this is going to be their first kind of like easy win of the tournament. And then, 2 goals in the 83rd minute or later, and we're into extra time, and we have to go to PKs to get that thing out. And it was a fantastic game. That was like one of the top sporting events of the entire year, that game. That had pretty much everything you'd want. I don't know. There's just something about this Argentina team I don't know that I trust fully still. And so, obviously I picked them if it was just a straight up favorite. I think they're going to advance. But Croatia is just the kind of like don't mess around with team. Like they don't have a bunch of firepower in the attack, but they still have this incredible midfield of guys that are just like really tried and true. Luka Modric is kind of the main guy there who plays for Real Madrid, who's I think 37 now. He's just an ageless wonder. So this is a team that just kind of knows how to win in knockout tournaments, and Argentina kind of doesn't. So I don't know. I'd be scared to back. I don't think there's really any value in backing Argentina. And I think, we can get into it a little bit. I think backing any teams to win to nil is really difficult if you're trying to get a better price. So I think you kind of have to back Croatia here. And I think that's really the main play.
I agree 100%. I was talking about this match last night, and first of all, I think the one thing, if you bet both draws today and tomorrow, Steve, I think, at 3-1, I think you're profitable there, plus 235. You only need one of them to hit, right? So that, to me, like, I'd be shocked if one of these matches, either today or tomorrow, doesn't go into extra time. But the total too, I mean, they're basically telling you 1-1 is kind of the peak here, and that's kind of what I expect going into extra time. So taking a half goal with Croatia at plus money seems like a very good bet to me. That's kind of where I'm at with this match. Let's get to tomorrow, because I think tomorrow's match is really the one that intrigues me. Morocco is like the destiny, like the team of destiny, right? They've allowed one goal in the tournament, and it was an own goal. And France has the best player. So it's like best team as a collective, best player. And we're getting a full goal with the best team. That's intriguing to me. Do you think Morocco has a chance to pull off what would be a Herculean upset?
I definitely do, because it's like, it's the same thing we were talking about with Croatia, where like, okay, in these knockout tournaments, especially in international soccer, like, you can look at the Champions League, and, these teams are a little bit more familiar with each other. They have these coaches, and they're just spend more time with their team. There's more tactics involved. When it comes to, World Cups and Euros and international tournaments, like, these coaches don't have a ton of time with the players, right? There's not a ton of tactics. It's mostly just like, all right, let's go to the bare minimum and let our either system that we think is going to be super conservative, or let our best players do their thing and not take too many chances. So like that's exactly what we're going to see in Morocco versus France. France, you could argue that they are the most talented team in the world. They probably are. I wouldn't argue that with you. They obviously won the World Cup 4 years ago. They could very easily win it this time around. As you mentioned, Kylian Mbappe is the best player, but they still do play very conservatively because they're just like, hey, we're just going to kind of sit back and not shoot ourselves in the foot. And that's probably going to get us a win like 90% of the time. But Morocco is just become this incredible team to you just can't break them down. And like, it's not, they've got names. I mean, Achraf Hakimi is a guy who used to play for Real Madrid. He came up through their youth system, now plays for PSG. Hakeem Ziyech plays for Chelsea. Like, they've got some guys, but I mean, they're really just kind of like batten down the hatches and just becoming incredibly difficult to break down. So, I thought, I actually had Morocco getting out of the group stage, but I kind of like I jumped off the ship when it came to the knockout stages, because I just figured like they don't have a ton of depth, and like when you play games every 3 days, it's really hard to sort of like keep that energy up. But now I think anything's possible, and I just think it's going to be incredibly hard to score against this team. And they've been pretty clinical on the counterattack, and they've been getting goals. So I think both of these games are very similar. I think they're going to be low scoring, really tight, hard to score games, where all the pressure is going to be on the favorite. And I think you're right. I think, if you take, the double chance, or at least the plus money on, or at least like a half a goal or a full goal on either one of these teams, you're probably bound to win one of those bets.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're betting a game like this, I mean, France is a minus 440 favorite. That is so juicy. You almost like can't lay that. So when you're looking at how to actually bet this game, how do you do that? Do you bet the total? Do you bet a draw? Like, how do you go about that?
So I was talking about this. I do a pod with Paul Carr, who's a really great numbers guy in the soccer world. And, we talked about how
does great stuff.
Paul is the best.
Really, really
Paul is
good.
the best. And, we talked about taking teams to, like, there's a difference between taking teams to win to nil in the group stages versus taking them in the knockout stages, because, in the group stages, obviously, like, you can still lose a game and it's fine because the goal differential matters so much. Like, if you lose 1-0, it's a way bigger deal than losing 3-0. Where in the knockout stages, if you're down, you got to chase a goal either way. So
agreed.
To take a team to win, to take France to win to nil, or to take Argentina to win to nil, it just scares me. I don't really fully trust it. So, I mean, I think there are some things you can do. Like, I was looking at, like, for example, if you think it's going to be a draw in the Morocco-France game, right? The 0-0 draw or the 1-1 draw is plus 700 odds on either of those two. Like, that's likely the game's going to be 0-0 or 1-1. So there's some decent value there. The under, like, there's really no value there. So maybe if you like Croatia double chance, or like I said, plus the half a goal, and you parlay that maybe with like under 3.5, because I highly doubt, like, even if Croatia does get a result there, it's not going to be 2-2 likely. So like that's about even money. There is some value. There actually is plus 120. So you're getting plus money there. So there are ways to kind of like finagle this to get a better price. But as far as taking the favorites, I would just be scared to take. The only way you could do it is really take it to win to nil. And I just would not be confident in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
No. There's ways we call it. My friends and I are kind of soccer, like we're kind of soccer squares, to be perfectly honest with you, but we really like betting it. But we do a lot of, we call it line manipulation, where we do the favorite to win and under 4.5 goals, and you get like 30 or 40 cents off the price. And it's just a little bit, so, the odds of 5 goals being scored, and, but in this particular case, I'll be honest, Steve, I like both underdogs, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's Croatia and Morocco in the final this weekend. Who do you have winning the World Cup on Sunday?
I got to stick with Argentina. I mean, as I just talked about at the start, like, I don't fully trust them, but I got to stick with my original pick, mostly because I would like to see, selfishly, I'm a Messi guy. I'd like to see him win a World Cup. Like, I think this whole thing about him and Maradona, and like, within the country of Argentina, like how he isn't Maradona because he hasn't won this World Cup, I think it's kind of unfair. I think Messi is probably the best player of all time. And, I think it would be unfair to just like hold that over his head. So I'd like to see that for him. But the thing we were talking about the other day was, I think any matchup we get is actually pretty fascinating, because you go, all right, if Argentina plays France, all right, you got two of the best teams in the world. You got Messi versus Mbappe. Like, who doesn't like that? If Croatia pulls off the upset and plays France, that's a rematch of 4 years ago. If Croatia plays Morocco, you've got two underdogs, and Morocco could potentially win the tournament as maybe the biggest underdog ever, first African team ever to do it. And if you've got Argentina versus Morocco, you got Messi versus this massive underdog. So there's really no losing proposition here. I think there's like an interesting story for every single matchup. But I would I'd like to see. I think if I had a guess, I'd like to see Argentina Morocco in the final just to see the David versus Goliath situation.
Mm.
I think I'd like to see Argentina win it.
I would love that. Absolutely. Steve, thank you so much for coming on. We so appreciate you. I'm sure we'll be talking to you maybe again before the World Cup.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
All righty, have a good one. That is Steve Ceruti. You can follow him on Twitter at Ceruti. He's a podcast manager and basketball soccer writer for The Ringer. We got the semifinal football game across the pond in Qatar. That's going to be fun. Argentina, Croatia today again at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. France, Morocco tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. From football, again to football. The bowl games now, Jared. We're going to play a game that we like to call yes or no. Here's the thing. I'm going to ask you a question. You tell me what you think about it, because I'm really good at asking questions and you're good at answering them. First of all, should I lay 10.5 points? Should I lay 10.5 points with Oregon State since Anthony Richardson declared for the draft?
No, you should not, Lauren, because you
That's
could have
a lot
laid
of points.
5, 6, and 7, and 8, and 9 all weeks ago. Not weeks ago, last week when these lines first dropped and that news first hit. We have passed the point in the bowl line phase where there is any value with the openers. At this point, the smart people that are way smarter and have way bigger bankrolls than me have already smacked these lines around for about a week now. And there's just not a lot of value, frankly, in betting these numbers that have moved significantly. This line, I believe, let me check my little odds screen here for a minute. This line opened at like 7-ish. I actually think it was shorter than that. Hold on. I could be wrong about that line. No, it opened around 7. And it moved all the way to 10, 10.5, 11 now. So, again, could Oregon State blow them out? Absolutely. But do I want to be laying double digits with a Pac-12 team against an SEC team? Absolutely not. There are much better ways to bet these games besides laying big numbers. I think, and we're going to have one on Friday with Miami of Ohio.
Yeah,
and
we'll
UAB.
get into that too.
I love UAB, but I'm not laying 11. There's other ways to bet these games once they reveal the prop numbers for some of these players that I think are much more intriguing to me from a game handicap perspective. Do I think Oregon State's going to win this game? Yes, I do. Florida's been a bit overvalued all year. Oregon State's a tough team. They're going to run it right down Florida's throat, and the Gators haven't been able to stop the run. But you're laying 11 with a Pac-12 team against an SEC team. There's a lot of margin for error for Florida to use one of their 100 5-star athletes on the bench and do something crazy at some point to keep that game within the number. So I think any lines that have moved significantly, and by significantly, I mean like a field goal or more, probably no more value betting that line, even though the game script and the handicap says Oregon State should win by a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually agree with you. 10.5 is just way too many points to be laying in a spot like this. Florida still has talent. So we'll see how that game plays out. Kentucky, Iowa. This total is extremely low. 31.5 right now. Do you think these teams can find enough offense to go over the total that is set less than 32?
Yeah, if one of them sneezes, they're going to go over this total. I mean,
literally,
it's the same handicap with Army Navy over the weekend. And it's not to say that this game should go over. But when the total is this low, it's really hard to find a lot of numerical reasons why it will stay under, because it only takes one weird bounce, one defensive score, one muffed punt, one guy sneezing and the ball pops up in the air and does whatever, and you're off target with this total because you literally need almost a perfect game for a game to stay under a total this low. And you saw it with Army Navy. That game was a stone cold under. And then one kick the ball into the uprights for a field goal, and one weird bounce, all of a sudden game goes to overtime, and then they score 2 touchdowns in the first 4 plays of overtime. I think it was even 2 plays. I think they scored 2 touchdowns in 3 plays in overtime. So it's just tough. Now, that being said, there's no Will Levis. There's no Chris Rodriguez. Iowa's offense looks like a bunch of peewee football players sometimes. So, yeah, the handicap says under here, but the number is so freaking low, it has to be a perfect game. like I said, there are other ways that we can bet these games because of the props and the way that they structure some of the lines. There's ways to manipulate in elsewhere besides side and total, because at this stage, not much value in the side and the total.
Yeah, this total is set at a point lower than the game last week in the Service Academy game, which the Service Academy game unders are stone cold. They've hit a ridiculously high amount of times. And this is a point lower. It's hard for me to bet an under on a total that is 31.5. I feel like some way they'll be able to figure out how to score at least a few touchdowns. Who knows? This is one I'm staying away from, though, for sure.
The game
How
could
about the
absolutely
spread for
stay
the
under.
FSU?
This game could be 10-7. But I
Totally.
think I feel confident that, first of all, this game's not being played until New Year's Eve. We have literally 3 weeks
Yeah.
to figure ourselves out.
We have
Second of all,
so
I'm
much time
confident that I'll be able to
figure it out.
exactly. I'm confident I'll be able to find a better way to play this game than 31.5. I feel
Totally.
confident with
Let's
a
take it to
prop or with a side or something.
Yeah.
I feel confident in that.
Let's take it to FSU Oklahoma. Did the books get the spread wrong in this one by making FSU an 8/7.5 point, depending on what book you look at, favorite?
Good game. Good team, Florida State. I think Florida State, if the season was 14 weeks and not 12, I think Florida State's in the ACC championship game, and I think they're playing for a chance to go to the college football playoff. That's how good of a season they had. But sadly, they lost on a very fluky, missed extra point on opening night. And when you lose 2 games, it's really tough to make a case, for the college football playoff. And then they lost that 3rd game, which was really tough, to NC State. Early in the year. Actually, excuse me, they won that game against LSU. It was the NC State game that I'm referring to that they had a fluky play go against them. So they lost 3 games in the middle of the season to Wake, NC State, and Clemson. All 3 ranked teams at the time. And then the NC State game and the Clemson game were both by a single score, and they were really banged up. But my point is, I think Florida State is a little bit under. I think they're the best 3-loss team in the country. And I think they're a really talented team. And, the Norvell head coach has done a really nice job with this offense, and Jordan Travis has been really good. I think Oklahoma's an intriguing team, but I don't think they really have the horses to keep up in this game. I do like Florida State a little bit. I don't think I'm going to bet it yet because, again, we have 3 weeks to really get to the bottom of this. This game's being played on December 29th, 16 days. Mm-hmm. But the market's telling me Florida State deserves to be favored by over a touchdown. And I don't know if I trust Oklahoma's defense. Even though Brent Venables is supposed to be a defensive coach, he hasn't really done a great job in that regard this year. Oklahoma's had some really bad performances on defense this season, including that game against Texas, which I think the Longhorns just scored again. So keep in mind Florida State's offense is legit. I think they're the side in this game. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of days to break these down. We'll be getting into bowl games. Obviously, the first one's starting this weekend, so we'll get into that on Friday. Cannot even wait. Before we get into our best bets, let's bet it, presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. Can you beat Vegas this football season? Superbook gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms, no one across the pond setting lines for American sports, just the best team of traders in the business at the Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, some of the best odds, boosts, and promo bets in the country. So if you're in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Nevada, New Jersey, or Tennessee, download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com to start your battle against Vegas. From superbook.com to Pickswise.com, Jared, who do we got today?
Got a lot today, actually. Mostly NBA, but also Matt Weisenfeld, wise guy, chiming in with some college hoops. Creighton, Arizona State. Interesting game there. I'll have to take a look there because Creighton's had a good year so far, but I haven't really looked at Arizona State much. And Wise Guy's also got Heat Pacers and T-Wolves Blazers. And then Kyle Loop is chiming in on Celtics Clippers. There you go. 4 games today on the hardwood. 3 NBA, 1 college. As you would say, from
Make
boys
sure
to
to check it out. Yeah, from boys to men. All right, as we get into our best bets of the day, Jared, you're taking it back to Qatar for the World Cup semifinals. Who you got?
Yes. We're taking a half goal with Croatia, guys. I put it on my spreadsheet last night, and I did a little write-up last night in my World Cup thread. We've been pretty hot in the knockout stage. The group stage, we made really one bad bet on Argentina. That one match against Saudi Arabia, and in the group stage we've been. In the knockout stage we've been pretty hot. So maybe this will be a nice finish for us here as we try to claw back to profitability. But I am taking Croatia plus a half goal. I think possession-wise, they're going to dominate, and they're going to basically play this game exactly like they played in the World Cup semis and in the World Cup final last year, which is possession, and try to let Argentina make the first mistake. And I love the motivational angle too. I mean, I know Argentina's motivated. I'm not saying that Argentina's not motivated. That's a insane notion in the semis of the World Cup. But Croatia was the runners-up 4 years ago, and it's roughly the same team with a little more talent up front. And I think this is a team that understands how to win in these types of world stage environments where it's really tight, it's really nervy, and I think Argentina is going to make the first mistake. And first half draw is also a great way to play it. We didn't talk about this with Steve, but I could see this one easily being 0-0 at half, and then with the winner getting a second or, their first goal in the second half, and maybe a second goal coming in the second half as well. But I see Croatia grinding out possession. I see them stealing one on the counter. Let's call it 1-1, and then Croatia advance in extra time, and they win 2-1. But 1-1 for us is perfect. That means we win on a half a goal, and I love that we're getting plus money here. I got plus 110. So we'll take the half a goal with the Croatian side and wish Messi the best of luck today, because he could absolutely ruin this for us. Messi could ruin it. Yeah. He could ruin this bet in a minute, your bet, but I hope he doesn't.
Hopefully your bet's red hot. I'm taking mine to the ice. So hopefully it's ice cold or red hot. I don't know how to really describe that, but I'm taking the Seattle Kraken. I'm taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. I like the Lightning 60-minute money line at minus 120. I look at Seattle. Yeah, they're 7-1 in their last 8 road games. They just beat the Florida Panthers, but that ended a 3-game skid. This is a team that's been really hot or really cold all season long, and they've been kind of chilly recently. Now you look at Tampa. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games. They're feeling it right now. They've won 10 of their last 13. Both teams have 35 points respectively heading into this game, but Seattle's offense is what's kind of keeping them rolling. Last year, they ranked 29th in the NHL with 2.6 goals per game. This year, 6th in the NHL, averaging 3.56 goals per game. No one wants to go head-to-head, though, against the Tampa Bay Lightning offense right now. Nikita Kucherov ranked 5th overall with 39 points this season. Steven Stamkos with 33 points. The team is 8th in the NHL in goals per game this season. Andrei Vasilevsky hasn't necessarily had the best start to the season, but in the month of December, he is playing so well. He owns a .936 save percentage, 1.76 goals against average, and as much as I love to bet an underdog, Tampa has been red hot, and they're on home ice, so I take them to win this one. The money line's a little too juicy for me. I think it's like minus 175. So I'm leading the 60-minute money line, only laying 20 cents for it, minus 120. That means they have to win in regulation. It can't go into, I'm not even going to say the O word, OT. I'm not going to say it because I feel like every time you say that, it actually ends up happening. So hopefully they get the job done in regulation tonight against the Seattle Kraken. That is it for us today. It's time for us to get cracking. That's it. Find us on the Pickswise channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Lauren Jabbar. We'll see you all tomorrow. Let's get it. Later, baby.